an advocate at the final pedestal of justice, the Supreme Court of India. Mr. Pawan Duggal is an authority on cyber law and e-commerce law. He is the president of Cyberlaws.net, a first-of-its-kind consultancy. Mr. Pawan Duggal is a consultant to UNCTAD and UNISCAP on cyber law and cybercrime, a fact that speaks volumes about his worldwide acceptance as an authority. His pioneering work regarding BPO legal issues has made him the member of the BPO Steering Committee of ASSOCHAM. Also an avid speaker and a writer, he has inked 6 books on various aspects of law and is a columnist with the Economic Times on the subject. We feel proud to welcome this well-known lawman of the country, Mr. Pawan Duggal, on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Pawan Duggal, who will be addressing us on managing cyber security for future business. Mr. Pawan, please.
Good evening. After poor and jalebi in the morning, I was wondering what to talk this evening. But I was reminded something happened in 2004. This was something innocuous, which had got nothing to do with e-commerce, but which changed the scenario for times to come. How many of you in the audience have heard about the famous DPS MMS? I see some hands, I see silences. Well, the year was 2004. 2 school students in one of the most prestigious schools of India, in Delhi, were engaging in a lot of activities. This is the Delhi Public School, RK, known for its academic brilliance. Its students also do a lot of extracurricular activities. And therefore, the schoolgirl was giving oral sex to the boy, who happened to record it on his mobile phone. Initially meant for a private use, this MMS leaked out in the public domain and then became the rage of the times. It was known as the DPS MMS. While all this was happening, some action was also happening at IIT Kharagpur. One student realized that this MMS was available free of cost on the land of IIT Kharagpur. So he decided to monetize it. He went to a website called Bazi.com. And that website, he did not put up the MMS. He just put up a message saying, hey guys, you all have heard about the famous DPS MMS. If you still have not got it, I can offer it to you for 100 rupees a download. This was uploaded on a Saturday evening. Sunday, Bazi at Bombay was closed. Monday, by the time they came to know about it and pulled down the message, history had been written. More than 27 people across the country and the world had ordered and downloaded the MMS for 100 rupees a download. For that act, a case for online insanity was registered, not only against the boy who did it, but also against the CEO of Bazi.com. And this guy, Avnish Bajaj, remained behind bars for 6 days before he could be granted bail. This created a huge controversy because corporate India was out on the street. How can you make the CEO liable for what's happening on your network? But the government acted, there were amendments, and while a lot of things changed in Indian cyber law, the fact remained that a couple of weeks back, Avnish Bajaj was given a quiet acquittal by the Supreme Court. What really started off as just a small incident completely changed the landscape of cyber law. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, I believe something that touches your lives and mine as well. I think we have a presentation, so if we can go to the presentation, can somebody help me? Well, while we're waiting for that, let me tell you of some more instances which really shake the mind. How many of you actually have ever felt that you have become a target, a victim of some kind of activity, criminal activity, cybercrime, mobile crime? Anyone else? Okay, I see less hands. Recently a study was done which found out that out of 10 random samples of
Indians that you pick up, you find that 6 out of the 10 have at one point of time or the other in life been subject to some kind of cyber crime or a mobile crime. And therefore, when you actually talk about your future, your business's future, it's important that you need to realize that you need to be aware of something that's going to integrally impact your businesses and the situations therein. Well, these are not legal guns. I hate legal lectures. It used to be so boring. I could never enjoy a legal lecture in my entire laws student days. But clearly, this was the guy who changed it all. This was Avnish Bajaj. This man got acquitted. This is what Basi looked at in 2004, and this is the new avatar of Basi, which is eBay.in. How many of you have heard of Guruji.com? Guruji is not the famous Thandai. Guruji is a music search engine. And this search engine also felt the heat. Well, Super Cassette Industries wrote to them saying, look, we find a lot of our music is being pirated on your music search engine. Please remove it. These guys turned a deaf ear. The DCD's people waited for quite some time till finally they got a criminal case registered. The entire top management of Guruji.com was arrested and was behind bars and is currently facing criminal trial for infringing of intellectual property rights of others. We all recognize him, right? Sri Ravi Shankar. But even he is not immune from people who want to hate him, people who want to defame him. So somebody put up a blog defaming the spiritual leader. And the spiritual leader then actually moved up to the Delhi High Court, and a landmark decision, the Delhi High Court restrained the concerned website and the administrators of the website from hosting anything which was defamatory of the spiritual leader. And do we know him? Well, there's a smile. And this spiritual leader has also brought a new kind of a lawsuit. Some people on the internet started writing defamatory content about Nirmal Baba. And consequently, Nirmal Baba went to the Delhi High Court saying they had no reason to defame me. Please restrain them from defaming me. In a landmark judgment, the Delhi High Court held that yes, the defendants have no business to defame Nirmal Baba and restrained the defendants from defaming him. But at the same time, the Delhi High Court also restrained Nirmal Baba from giving up any kind of illogical solutions or rastas or upayas to his followers, including things like have pani puri and have kripa on your side. So this is one of those cases where the judiciary has adopted a very customized approach. You normally think you go to court and you will get justice. You never think you will go to court and the court will give an injunction order against you alone for dispersing anything which is patently illogical. How many of the people here are actually users or are companies who do business with the following? In fact, let me do the converse. Let's ask how many people do not use this. Well, cell phones, integral parts, everybody is using them. Digital cameras, we are not only using them, we are also using in our smartphones. And this computer, this ubiquitous computing, where we get connected all the time to social media, is something that a majority of Indians are constantly using. But while all this is happening, there is some trouble also growing about. Do you or your businesses deal with data and information in electronic form? I think the majority of businesses do. Even you as users use data. And most of the time, you're not careful. There is this case of a company in Gurgaon. This company is in the area of artificial intelligence. They create software. The software does artificial intelligence and manages the readings on the Sensex The moment the Sensex hits a particular value, the said software automatically gives instructions to buy or sell certain shares at certain predetermined parameters. Now, this is some very cutting-edge work that was being done, and this is one company that only has IIT PhDs as its employees. It does not take anybody else. Only PhDs from IITs are the employees of this company. So one lady who was heading the R&D was working on this for close to 4 years. One evening said bye to everybody, and next morning did not come back. This is despite the fact that there were very strong employee documentation wherein there was a bond that the concerned person could not leave without serving 6 months notice. So this notice was not commutable in terms of salary. It was to be served in person. She chose not to serve. She went and joined competition. And along with her, took this entire database of artificial intelligence R&D cutting-edge work that's been done. The competitor, within 3 weeks, announced in the public domain that they had come up with a similar product and they were about to launch it in the market. Our company sensed that there was a problem. We tried to contact the employee. The employee's father incidentally was a lawyer and said, "Beta, main dekh lunga, chinta na karo." And consequently they said, "Do what you want." We had to approach the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court restrained the employee. The Delhi High Court restrained the competitor from employing the employee. And then in a unique kind of a settlement was arrived at between the parties. The lady who left agreed to come back and complete her 6 months of notice period. In this 6 months, she was made to do one unique work in the company. Next to the reception, a glass cubicle was created. She was made to sit in the glass cubicle from morning 9 to 5 and was only given 5 newspapers to read. Just a stark reminder for everybody walking in and out that should you try to mess up with the company, this is what you could potentially be exposed to. So a lot of people don't even think what they're currently doing with the data that they're doing. A lot of time we think, apna baap ka maal hai types. We have the jugaad approach. Oh, I'm working for a company. Let me take this pen drive, let me put it in, let me copy everything. Forget about it. If the company has given me connectivity, let me send it to my personal email ID. There have been a number of cases that's been happening. I mean, companies are facing this problem on a recurrent basis, despite putting up all cyber security measures. You see, the human Indian mind is so ingenious, and they find so many different ways to come out of it. Well, today, mobiles are central to our lives. And these smartphones have got a huge problem. Not only are they an addiction, they are also the center of our lives in terms of storing our personal, professional, social, and any other kind of information. So, recently, the CEO of a top 50 companies of India managed or accidentally lost his cell phone. And that created triggers of panic in the company because that cell phone had confidential data about the market moves of the company in the next 12 months. Now, unfortunately, they did not even have the technology to self-destruct that kind of a data because they had not implemented that at that point in time. So, if you are giving mobiles to your employees, you have to be careful because these mobiles become the door for exiting of information. And now with this new trend coming BYOD, bring your own device, we are actually opening an invitation to disaster. When you actually are asking your employees to get their devices to work, it's their devices, it's your data. But once these employees go off, what happens to your data is anybody's guess. So there are a huge number of legal ramifications that people need to be concerned of. Needless to say, everybody is working on emails for the purposes of carrying on business. A lot of people are using social media for the purposes of reaching out to customers. And this is what the social media ecosystem currently looks like. I don't know how many of you are on which ones, but barring the Facebooks, the Twitters, and the Google Pluses of the world, this entire space is very much crowded. And that being so, a lot of companies are also using SMSs without realizing that your SMS is legal evidence, can be used against you. The other day, I got this case of, again, this is a CIO of a company. Can you beat the CIO of a company getting mad with an employee because he hadn't done a particular work, and in a fitness of rage, the CIO sent an SMS to the employee. In the SMS, he actually uses some loose language. The employee chooses not to talk to the CIO. He goes to the police for registration of a case. With great difficulty, things are sorted out. And mind you, today's employees are very, very intelligent. There was this unique kind of a case that was happening. This was a case pertaining to a very innovative approach of adoption of law. There was this LPO, legal process outsourcing. They come at about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, go to post midnight, as per American timings. And this girl, a 27-year-old lawyer, was made the floor in charge. The floor was all transparent, no cubicles. She had only one cubicle at the side. And one fine day, when she comes into work, the employers ask her to join us in the boardroom. She's shown footage. The footage is of a secret camera that has been installed in her cabin without her knowledge. The footage shows she making love with a colleague during office hours in her cabin without knowledge of this secret footage. She's asked to resign. She wants 24 hours time to think and come back and resign. The company says come back in 24 hours. She does wonderful homework. She chooses not to go home. She chooses to go to the police station and gets a case registered against the company and against the top management for publishing, transmitting obscene electronic information and violating her privacy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are using spy cameras in your offices, think again. There is not much of a privacy law in the country, but clearly there is something that's happening in cyberlaw world that you need to be aware of. Clearly, when you send SMSs, you have to realize that this is legal information. How many of your companies are dealing with sensitive personal data? This could be your financial details, it could be your medical records, it could be information pertaining to your sexual orientation. Are you a gay? Are you a lesbian? That kind of information is all sensitive personal data. And if all of this data is what are you using? Are you using sensitive personal data in a right manner? Are you using reasonable security practices and procedures to go ahead and protect such data? This is not just data that I talked about, but even data related to passwords. Your password, your username, your secret question, and the answer to the secret question are all sensitive personal data under Indian cyber law. So you need to be aware of all this the next time you're doing your business or the next time you're contributing to any business. And this is also a lot of medical information. A lot of this medical reimbursement information is available on systems apart from technical information. So if you're doing of all this, a lot of people are also using spam. You know, India is the topmost nation in the entire world in terms of the volumes of spam that gets generated from India. And why? Because spam is neither an offense in our country, nor is it a ground for seeking damages by way of compensation. So, if all the answers to the above questions are positive, then the learnings are very clear. You are going to be governed by certain legal principles, and these are the Indian Cyber Law. Now, what is this Indian Cyber Law? This is the Information Technology Act 2000. This is the copy of my last book on cyber law, the Indian perspective. A lot of you guys who have not heard about this would have heard about this law at least in the last 2-3 months when the Shaheen Dhandas of the world were arrested. One woman who just managed to post her opinion, post the Bal Thackeray death bombing closure, against that closure, and she was arrested. Another girl who just liked that post was also arrested. It created a huge furore. And now, this particular section 66A, is being applied in a variety of cases. In central India, a case has been registered 3 weeks back, and this is a unique case. A boy who is infatuated by a girl, is in love with her, but the girl doesn't know, the boy sends a birthday cake to the girl. But prior to sending the birthday cake, asks the bakery, here is the photograph of the girl, please put the photograph of the girl on the cake. So the bakery publishes the photograph of the girl on the cake and sends it to the girl for delivery. This is done by electronically transmitting the photograph by the boy to the bakery. The girl's parents received it, they are mad, they go and report to the police, what nonsense, and the police registers the case under section 66A of the Information Technology Act 2000. And 2 days back, in Chumri Talaya, of all places, a case has been registered. This case also relates to where a wife has stated that my husband, after getting separated from me, is using my information and is morphing my face on erotic models and is sending those photographs to my friends and family. So, if you have done any of these, if you are known of any instances that your friends are doing it, I think you need to be just aware of this law. Why this law? Because this law is India's mother legislation that deals with everything digital. There are 7 raw materials in the digital ecosystem. If you use computers, computer systems, computer networks, computer resources, communication devices, as also data and information in the electronic form. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the law that covers you. So you do not have to be the Airtels of the world to be covered by this law. You can be an individual user of a mobile phone worth 1200 rupees to get stuck within this law. And based on the work that I do, I can easily tell you, getting stuck is so easy. Getting out of this would take a huge number of years. So you have to be extremely careful of this particular legislation, because this legislation is already asking you to comply certain things if you're doing certain things pertaining to data and information in the electronic form. I don't know how many people are complying. A recent study was done on random sampling basis, and we found out that out of 100 companies surveyed, more than 91% were non-compliant with the IT Act. And out of the remaining, some of them had heard about the IT Act, but were still contemplating actually doing certain compliances under this particular law. Certain takeaways I want to give you. These takeaways I think you need to be careful of. If you're students, great. Your potential managers tomorrow, wonderful. Your existing managers today, excellent. All of you have to realize that henceforth, your entire world is going to revolve around digital data. This could be in any form, whether it's your iPads, whether it's smartphones, whether it's galaxies, whether it's your laptops, whether it's any kind of PCs or the like. This is the medium that you'll have to be careful of. So certain things you must be very careful of. First is, if you enter into somebody's computer system without his knowledge, be very careful. Why? Because this could potentially expose you to damages. Merely entering. So your friend says, look, hey, here is my username password, please access my account and get out some information. Try not doing that. Because if you do that, and tomorrow things go wrong, you can actually be asked to pay damages up to 5 crore rupees per contravention. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 crores per contravention. So you do 10 contraventions, it's 5 crores into 10, 50 crores that you could be potentially exposed to. If you enter into somebody's system and you download, copy, extract data, good, another 5 crores. You introduce a computer contaminant, another 5 crores. You damage the working of a computer system, another 5 crores. You misuse somebody's credit card numbers and you could be sued for damages. And forget about everything. The law has now used some very dangerous language. If you enter into somebody's computer system and you diminish the value or utility of information residing in the computer system, you are in for trouble. If you affect the said information injuriously by any means, 5 crore rupees. This is amazing. Whatever you do is going to somehow impact the electronic record in one way or the other. Somewhere there's going to be diminishing of value of utility. So that's a huge law that has already been passed, and people have begun to taste the bitter taste of the law. There was this bank, and this is the documented case of ICICI Bank versus Umashankar. Umashankar is one of the customers of the bank. He finds that his bank account has been phished. He writes to the bank, "Sir, my bank account has been phished. Please take action. Return back my money." The bank says, "Sorry, we don't know. You would have done it. We are not responsible." He says, "Good." He goes and seeks damages against this bank under the IT Act. In a historic judgment, the adjudicating officer appoints gives about 12.5 lakh rupees as damages against the bank for its inactivities. So while you could be exposed to these kinds of damages, the beauty is if you are an affected party, you can also seek damages. So it's a double-edged sword that can go either way. And further, if you think it's just civil exposure, tighten your belts. You could also be exposed to criminal liability of 3 years imprisonment and 5 lakh rupees fine. Now this is section 66 and 43 of the IT Act. So it's both civil exposure and criminal exposure. And the exposure is not just for individuals. If you're a company, God save you, because the law says if an offense is committed by a company, then every person who's responsible for running the affairs of the company shall also be deemed to be guilty of the said offense and shall be liable to be punished accordingly. Of course, you still as corporates have exit routes out. The law says if you're able to prove that you had no knowledge of any contravention, no liability. The law says if despite exercise of all due diligence, you still could not prevent the commission of any offense or contravention, no liability of any kind whatsoever. And now, after the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, a new definition has come under this law. This is the definition of cyber security. Mind you, all of us thought cyber security was the responsibility of Government of India. No longer so. Cyber security means protecting information, equipment, devices, computers, computer resources, communication devices, and information stored thereunder from unauthorized access, use, disclosure, disruption, modification, or destruction. And the law now says if you're a private company, you also have to now contribute towards protecting cyber security. Well, things changed dramatically after the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. And what happened 6 months back in Bangalore was also a very stark reminder. Well, isn't it remarkable, you know? You don't shoot a bullet and you're able to test a model and the model works wonderfully well. All it requires is malicious information spread first over social media and then as SMSs targeting a particular community around Bangalore. And 15th of August 2012, we see mass exodus of people from Bangalore. People are jumping into trains like we've never seen before. I think the last time we saw was in the independence time when those trains came jam-packed like this. And all of that because of misuse of technology and without shooting a bullet. Here was a model tested and found the model works. You can disseminate false information and you can have positive, cogent, concrete impact upon the minds of people. So therefore, cyber security has become more important. I think in July or August, there was also a blackout. The northern grid collapsed. The official explanation obviously was that the states had overdrawn. Typically that was the case. But just consider the scenario. If the computers of the northern grid could have been hacked, then are we looking at a dive 4 situation happening? Is it Estonia that's going to be repeated in our country? We have actually no clue. We are neither prepared on cybersecurity. We don't even have a national policy on cybersecurity till this evening when I'm talking with you. But of course, baby steps are continuing to be made. And I think I want to invite everybody's audience here to a unique concept. This law has come up. This concept is known as that of an intermediary. Intermediary, I thought there's somebody in between, right? In between two people. Well, the law says, good, you are an intermediary. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this new world of Indian IT law. This is what intermediary means. Intermediary with respect to any particular electronic records means any person who on behalf of another person receives, stores or transmits that record or provides any service with respect to that record. And now see what all it includes. It includes telecom service providers, network service providers, internet service providers, web hosting companies, search engines, online auction portals, online payment sites, online marketplaces and cyber cafes. And that's not all. If you are a company and you're providing connectivity to your employee, you become a network service provider and you are an intermediary. If you're the government, you become the biggest intermediary in the country. If you are just a two-member outfit and as the owner of the outfit you have given connectivity to another person, you become an intermediary. What happens if you become an intermediary? You suddenly get exposed to a huge amount of liability. So you don't need to be an Aircel, the Airtel, the Bhartis or the VSNs of the world to be an intermediary. What kind of exposures did you have? First and foremost, the law says, if you're an intermediary, please do due diligence while you discharge your obligations under the law. You don't do that, and then you play with fire. Why? Because you are also required to comply with the rules and regulations. What happens if you don't comply? Good question. Again, civil and criminal exposure for the company and for the top management. Civil damages again, up to 5 crores under the IT Act, beyond the 5 crores in a court of competent jurisdiction. And in case of a criminal consequences, the top management can be exposed from 3 years imprisonment to life imprisonment and fine ranging from 1 lakh rupees to 10 lakh rupees. So clearly the exposure is phenomenal. And mind you, 140 characters on Twitter can expose you to tremendous liability. One gentleman, after a page 3 party, was very angry with the CEO of a company and on his way back sent certain tweets from his mobile phone against the CIO, against the CEO of that company. The tweets were defamatory. The company has sued the said individual in 2 lawsuits of 100 crores each. So 200 crores of potential liability for just a couple of tweets of 140 characters. See how the new world is dawning upon all of us. So the law is very, very serious. If you are managers, you are potential managers, you're going to be dealing with electronic format. Please make sure that your operations and those of your companies are compliant with the IT Act and compliant with the compliance framework that the IT Act has done it. Now this compliance is mandatory. You cannot say, I will not comply. You choose not to comply and you actually play with fire. If you don't do that, the problem is, in our country we have a system of proven justice. When there's a knock on my door by the police, they're not going to hear my voice. They're not going to hear to my verbal arguments. They will say, kuch paper hai to dikha do, warna saath chal pado. So, if you have the documentation to show that you've complied with the IT Act, you will be safe. You don't have documentation, and it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get out of it because doing retrospective documentation is almost impossible in today's world. And therefore, I think this is the kind of work that's currently being done by my law firm, Pawan, Duggal Associates. We cover all parameters of the IT Act, rules and regulations, and we help actually companies to ensure compliances with the IT Act. You do not need to only be in the IT sector for these compliances. If you're using the electronic format, you will have to ensure that you comply, you evaluate, and you certify. And that's all the works that we do. I was looking at this wonderful, enthusiastic bunch of students up here, and I said, look, I'm going to appeal to these intelligent Indore minds. A lot of cutting-edge work is happening on legal, policy, and regulatory issues concerning the mobile and the digital ecosystem in our law firm. And this is new pilot projects are being done. So if you have any ideas and if you want to contribute to anything in these pilot projects, feel free to connect up with me. We'll be happy to have you over and potentially have you contribute because you see the law is developing. This is one unique piece of jurisprudence. It hasn't happened earlier. Typically, law is the most boring of all subjects. Why? Because it has been here for centuries. The law has developed as it is. For the first time in the history of our lives, we have a legislation, we have a law, we have a jurisprudence that's evolving as we go along. And we all can make a tremendous contribution in ensuring that the law goes the right way, not the wrong way. And of course, with mobiles coming in, it's going to be completely mindful of the consequences that's going to be attending our respective behaviors. So, ladies and gentlemen, any one of you who wants to contribute to any of these legal policy issues, feel free to connect up. We'll be happy to have you over. I'd like to conclude by saying that the Indian Cyberlaw has created the framework which has made the electronic format legal, which has provided for electronic authentication, which has now given the boost for the growth of e-commerce and now m-commerce in the world at large. You also have certain compliances under the law. Please ensure that you do your compliances, and if you don't do it, as I said, it's always better to go out slightly more prepared. A couple of years back, I was in a foreign land with another Indian IPS officer, and he told me a very small saying. He said, "आपकी जेब में पैसा होता ना, अंदर से निग होती है." And you tend to get a huge sense of comfort and warmth when you know that you have in your pocket what you should have. Today the law requires you that you have in your pocket these compliances. And please do not go on the wrong side of law. This morning, I was talking to one of the top IPS officers of Madhya Pradesh, and he was telling me how these guys are doing some remarkable work here in Indore and Ujjain. They recently caught up with a Nigerian guy who was misusing, he was actually misleading people, asking them to deposit monies. People were depositing monies, and then he would quickly take them off and under some false pretext or the other. And these are not normal people. These are not educated people. These are just the common people who get defrauded. And you don't need to be only a common people. I have a client who's a brigadier. The brigadier has paid 25 lakh rupees over the last 9 months to one of these offerings who has offered to give him some wonderful returns back. And only now this realized that we have to actually go the legal way. So I think I have just one message for you. Only in compliance lies the nirvana ahead. The electronic format has made our life very, very easy, but it has opened us, all of us, to potential exposure. You don't need to be a celebrity to be targeted. You can just be your normal person in your peer group, and you can find the heat on. Because somebody, somewhere, wants to be sadistic, wants to trouble you, wants to target you, and they are misusing the electronic format. So please be very, very careful. And of course, this is one law that will continuously keep on changing as time passes by. Of course, now case laws are emerging which will help to change it the right way, the right time, the right direction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, sir, for such an energetic session. We have a quick round of question and answers. The first question is from Mr. Pawan Duggal. What's your take on Julian Assange of WikiLeaks?
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of tomorrow. More and more leaks will keep on happening. As countries try to suppress leaks, there will be more innovative ways to find out how to leak up further things without getting caught. Today, Julian Assange is in a variety of legal troubles. The next generation of leakers will take their appropriate precautions that they do not come within the clutches of law per se. Thank you. Can you look at the question again, please? We are all users of pirated media content. What are the laws we need to take care of in a way to come out of it? हर आदमी चोरी करता है, जो पकड़ा जाए वो चोर होता है। कोशिश करें चोरी वाला सामान कम से कम लें, खास तौर पर अपने दफ्तरों में, घर में फिर भी चल सकता है, क्योंकि जो बड़ी कंपनियां हैं वो आपके घर पर तो नहीं आएंगी, लेकिन आपके दफ्तरों पर द मोमेंट आपने थोड़ा सा पर्टिकुलर टारगेट अचीव कर लिया तो आपको टारगेट कर दिया जाएगा। और आजकल तो एक नई इंडस्ट्री आ गई है, इस इंडस्ट्री को हम कहते हैं जाल फेंको इंडस्ट्री। जाल फेंको इंडस्ट्री क्या है? इंडस्ट्री ये नई इंडस्ट्री इस तरह की IPR इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी कंपनीज बनाई। आपको सडनली कोई फोन आ जाएगा, अब ऐसा है कि हम आपके यहाँ ऑडिट करना चाहते हैं, हमें पता लगा हम काफी सारे सिस्टम इस्तेमाल करते हैं, हम आपको ऑडिट करेंगे और बताएंगे साहब कि और क्या क्या प्रोडक्ट इस्तेमाल करते हैं। यू आर कंप्लीटली एट रिस्क, यू हैव नो क्लू व्हाट्स गोइंग टू हिट यू। आप कहते हैं आइए साहब, आप आते हैं, वो आते हैं आपके सिस्टम में, आप एक्सेस देते हैं और एक्सेस देने के बाद ही वो कहते हैं ठीक है जी हम आपको 2-3 हफ्ते में रिपोर्ट देंगे। 3 हफ्ते बाद रिपोर्ट आती है और कहते हैं साहब आपके यहाँ इतनी पायरेटेड ट्रीज मिली, ये मिली, अब लीजिए एनीथिंग रेंजिंग फ्रॉम 50 लाख 5 करोड़ ये हम बिल आ गया साहब, आप लीजिए और हम इतने पैसे दीजिए, या पैसे नहीं भी देने हैं तो आप इतने अमाउंट का हमारे से सॉफ्टवेयर खरीद लीजिए तब हम ठीक ठाक हो जाएंगे। अगर आप नहीं खरीदेंगे तो हम आपके मतलब कानूनी कार्रवाई करेंगे। तो इस तरह की आजकल प्रैक्टिस शुरू हो गई, सो यू हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी केयरफुल। ऑफ कोर्स द थंब रूल इज नेवर अलाउ anybody outside a company to come and have access to your system. आपने पायरेटेड सॉफ्टवेयर इस्तेमाल करना है, आप कर रहे हैं, आप रिस्क के साथ खेल रहे हैं, लेकिन बड़ा रिस्क वो होगा कि जब आपको मालूम है कि पायरेटेड सॉफ्टवेयर है और वो जानते हुए आप अपने सिस्टम में दूसरे को घुसने देंगे और कहेंगे साहब आइए ऑडिट कर जाइए। So please never allow those big names, no names here, or big companies who now realize that in the time of recession in the West, India is such a fertile market. You go to target companies and out of nowhere you are generating a lot of money. And these guys are given specific quarterly targets. कि आपको इस क्वार्टर में इतने पैसे इस जाल फेंको इंडस्ट्री से आपने निकालने हैं और लोग फॉलो भी कर रहे हैं। So please be very careful. घर में तो शायद आपको नहीं टारगेट किया जाएगा, स्मॉल प्लेयर्स में नहीं किया जाएगा, लेकिन द मोमेंट आप थोड़ा सा टर्नओवर तक पहुंच गए तब आप उम्मीद कर सकते हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं आपको टारगेट किया जाए। 2 बात क्लियर है, अगर आप पायरेट करते हैं बस कम से कम 3 साल की सजा है। वो दूसरी बात है कि पायरेसी ऑफ सॉफ्टवेयर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट प्रायोरिटी नहीं है। पुलिस वाले के पास हमने नहीं छोड़ दी, मुझे यहाँ किडनैपिंग या मर्डर से फुर्सत मिलेगी तो मैं देखूंगा, उसके लिए प्रायोरिटी नहीं है। लेकिन अगर मुकदमा दर्ज हो जाए उसमें से बाहर निकलने में थोड़ा बहुत समय आपको लग सकता है। टिपिकली कंपनीज कहती हैं कि we go to the court of law, get an injunction order against you and say look, we got this injunction, now come and settle with us, yes, X amount of money. So as far as possible try to avoid falling in that particular trap and I think you'll be perfectly fine. Thank you.